said, I'm getting ready to go into a meeting, and he just kept.
Okay, we're on
so I
air.
just hung up on him. Yeah, I thought about that yesterday too.
Okay.
We may have to be using that one.
Call the animal shelter meeting to order. Do roll call. Matt Newbanks. Absent. Deborah Corrales. Absent. Grant Johnson.
Yeah.
Scott McCready here. Lyric Carnes.
Here.
Rosemary Mai.
Here,
Lacey Helton.
Here.
Stephen Cook.
Here.
Frankie Fuller. And we have a quorum. Okay, citizens forum. Anybody like to speak?
If I may, we need to, you need to ask staff if the board chair requests staff confirmation that the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been provided. The first step.
What he said.
It has been, yes.
Okay, thank you. Now do we move to the citizens forum? Okay. Citizens forum, would anybody like to speak? It's an empty room. Okay. And we need to elect a vice chair for the board. As a group, we can discuss that. Any volunteers?
I'd like to nominate Scott.
Scott's only got 2 more meetings and I've met my
Quota.
2-year requirement, so you'd have to redo it. I would accept it, but just knowing that it would be very short term.
Grant?
I'm in the same boat.
Gosh, everybody's getting off.
Yeah, I think, let's see. I'd like to nominate Lyric. Because you just recently came on, and in that way it would have some continuity.
True.
And Matt's here probably for another few months also.
Really? All 3 of you guys are leaving?
Is the term 3 years?
I'll have to look.
I thought it was 1 and 2.
It depends on the how they put you in there, but I will look. I will find out tomorrow morning, and then I will email everybody what their terms are.
Okay.
Okay. I would be willing, I would accept that nomination.
I'd second.
All right. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Congratulations. And
So for the record, I'm gonna have to look up the orders of, make sure I get this right, because I wouldn't have known to do that either at the beginning.
Well,
So,
On
It's
the-
right here on.
yeah, you get an email list also.
call
or,
to order, okay.
So they should have had a list of how everything
Yes.
operates and goes.
I did get that.
Okay, fantastic.
It's just that I'm not completely schooled in, what is it, Robert's
He's going to
Rules of
correct us here,
Law?
and then we're going to fix something.
Now, I'm just going to read from you from the city clerk's website, the city website. The term is a 3-year term,
Okay,
and each member is eligible for 2 terms. So someone could theoretically reapply for a second term after their 3-year commitment and actually serve a total of 6 years.
Okay, I read somewhere it was like 1 and 2, but that's updated, and I'm sure that.
Different boards do have different term lengths, but ours is, this board is 3 years as
Okay.
a term, and then you're eligible to reapply for a second term.
So I got out of being vice chair. That works out
so for the
fantastic.
record, we would observe that if you get put back on, I would be happy to give you this responsibility.
I'm good.
Well, that was a good try, I think. Okay, so we have elected the vice chair. We are now on to community vet comments. Are there any veterinarians in the house? Doesn't appear so. So it doesn't appear that there are any comments. Okay, we need to look at the agenda for today. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
I have a motion that we approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, can we then vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so the agenda is approved. We also need to look at the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes today?
I did.
I had one question on the minutes. When I looked at, it was under number 8, new business. On letter D, it said grow and foster and volunteer program, but I thought it should say grow, foster, and start volunteer program, because the volunteer program had not been happening, it had been kind of closed down. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
I think our plan is to get things going for the
Okay,
foster
so
and for
maybe
the-
just change that wording to grow, foster, and start volunteer program.
Okay,
Was that under new business?
That was under number 8, new business, underneath number 1, and it was D, 1D, under new business. Is there any other changes to the minutes?
It's your third page, Scott. Did you see it?
Yeah, I got
Okay.
it. Thank you.
If there's no other changes to the minutes, can I have somebody motion that we accept the minutes as presented with that one change?
A motion, we accept the minutes with that one change.
Okay, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, the minutes for the last meeting are approved with that one change. Okay, we are now on new business, Shelter Alliance data.
I registered us with the Shelter Alliance, and it's a data program that anybody can get on and look and see what our numbers are, how many dogs we've brought in, how many cats we've brought in, how many animals were euthanized, how many cats were returned to owner, dogs returned to owners. It goes cat, dog, and those are all now public, so you guys can see what our numbers are. At the time. Our cat numbers are not really good for January, February, March because of because of the panleukopenia that has been going through. But we've made our numbers on dogs for March and April to meet the no-kill standard.
Is that posted someplace on the website?
It's not on our website, but it's on the Shelter Alliance website.
So I'm wondering if we could add a link on our website.
we could.
And maybe put that on Facebook,
Yes.
a link that says that this data is available.
And we can put that on our website so people can just click on it and get to it from that website.
That'd be great. I think that'd be excellent transparency.
Yeah, and it's a monthly deal, so I have been putting on monthly. I'm going to go back and put our numbers for 2024 in because since we started, I just started it in the very beginning of March. I wanted to make sure that I had all of 2025 in, so now I'm going to go back and put 2024 numbers in so you guys can see or the public can see what 2024 numbers look like.
Okay, sounds good. The next new business is pit bull transfers.
We have been blessed and have gotten 10 pit bulls out in the last month to rescue. We took one to Longmont on Friday. And I was kind of hoping for more, but they are full as well. So they did accept one pit bull. And I did get some other information from 2 other rescues or shelters in Colorado that I'm sending information to them tomorrow, and hopefully they can take some more.
How do you determine which of our pit bulls that you actively try to transfer?
Well, we're actively trying to get them all out, all the ones that are
How do you prioritize,
available.
I guess is what I'm saying.
We were trying to go oldest, the ones that have been there longer first, but we had a batch of 9 puppies that had come in that were actually born in shelter, and we had mommy, daddy, and puppies, and the puppies were not relinquished to us by the court for quite a while, so they were getting a little older. Were they 9 months, I believe? They were 9 months old, which is still puppy.
Yes.
So those were all then transferred and adopted to individuals. And then we had one that came in that was about the same age, and we're hoping to get that one to Newton or one of the other places here in Kansas.
So the 10 pit bulls were puppies, mostly?
They were puppies, and then we had 2 adults,
Okay.
3 adults actually.
So it's not, it must be more than 10.
Well, one was when was Sir? Was Sir in
I don't remember.
April? Or, yeah, I think Sir was in.
So there were only, I'm going to correct you, there was only 7 puppies.
Okay,
Actually, and then
okay.
the other 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
that
There
makes
were only
sense.
the
right,
7
I'm
puppies.
sorry.
Yep.
There were 7 puppies, then the 1 puppy that didn't go,
Right.
and then that one's still with us, and then we had the two adults that went, and then the one that went to Colorado.
Okay.
I will say I did really appreciate, we met about a year ago with a group, nonprofit out of Kansas City called On a Mission KC. And they were the ones that actually posted, we had all those puppies that we needed to relocate outside of Salina. And we got an amazing feedback from that and were able to work out the transfer and then adoption through that post. So that was extremely helpful.
Right.
Are
And
they?
we plan on doing that again.
I was going to say, are they a group that you can do that with on a
Yes.
continuous
Yes.
basis?
Yep.
That's good.
Like, how many are in there now?
You want? I want to say.
A rough
I want to
estimate.
say
I
there's
can look, I'm not sure.
10.
Yeah, we probably have about somewhere between 10 to 15 pit bulls right now.
And then, do you guys know the cost per day per animal? Have you got that broke down?
We haven't broke it down. We can get that if that's something that you need.
Well, yeah, I was brainstorming maybe how to get some of that out there. There might be some financial incentives, like if you take our dog, it comes with X amount of pet care, because if we know that animal costing us X amount per day, and we know this is a long-term problem we have and situation, it might be beneficial for that some of that financial care to go with that animal, and it saves the city money.
Well, we
And
do
it gets-
everything before they go. We
Right.
spay, neuter, heartworm test, vaccinate, deworm, microchip before
Right.
they go, because it makes it easier for us to get them somewhere if they don't
Right.
have to do something to it.
Right, and then there's everyday care that happens too.
Right.
And I don't know if there's a way to come up with the formula. Hey, this saves if this dog comes with $500 worth of care, or not, maybe housing. It saved us $1,000 down the road. I don't know the numbers. I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah,
but
they-
I know when. In certain businesses, we know, like for an ambulance, we know what it costs when it goes out the door. We know what
Sure.
this costs when it goes out the door. We know what every single thing costs. So that's a figure you can use to maybe think outside the box
Yeah.
to,
And a lot of these
save the city
places-
money and get the animal down the road.
Yeah, a lot of these places that we're sending to know how much we're spending on it, so they're appreciating they don't have to spend that.
Oh,
You know,
exactly,
so
yeah.
they kind of know what it takes to get an animal ready to go. So they do understand that, and I'm just grateful that they're taking them
Yeah,
at this
absolutely.
point, because they're getting out, they're having live outcomes, and
Right.
they're getting good, happy, healthy homes.
Right. What I was saying is, like, if there's more, maybe more animals can save us money and help get them out the door.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
We can work on those numbers. I like that.
Okay, and then offsite activities?
Offsite activities is kind of blowing up a little bit, which is great. We love that. We went to, we did a speaking at the Salina area retired teachers personnel dinner. Bridget went. They asked for somebody just to come speak. They didn't want animals there. They just wanted somebody to come speak. So Bridget went and did kind of a little education. She's our lead ACO, and she did like a little education section for them. We had Redfern Bookstore had invited us out for a reading for the little kids. So an officer took one dog out there, and it was the same day as the big race that was down there on Santa Fe. So there was a lot of exposure, and I think we got 2 dogs out that day from that little promotion right there. She had to come back and get a dog and then went back out with another dog. We had Water's True Value. They had their big opening thing that we got to. We had 2 officers that were able to go to that, which it's nice to be able to have 2 of them go, so that means more dogs get to go out. And we did get some adoptions from that. And then just this past Thursday, we had the big truck event where we ended up taking the animal shelter van, so all the little kids at Head Start could see all the different vehicles. There was police cars out there, ambulances, fire trucks, and they invited us to bring our animal shelter van out there, and it was very helpful. It was very fun for the little kids to see where the animals go. So, but that was a truck-only event. There were no animals out at that event, being as it wasn't an adoption event.
Has our numbers, with you saying that we've had good adoptions, are the numbers at all changing, or have we brought in that many more dogs so that we're keeping an equilibrium?
We seem to be getting more adoptions out, which is good, but we are still getting a lot of strays in. We are seeming to get a lot of dogs that they're strays and they're not being reclaimed. We have been able to free up some space to get in some surrenders. We have been taking some surrenders. We have room for cat surrenders as well. So we have been trying to get those numbers up as far as like being able to serve the public and bring those animals in.
Okay. If there's nothing else on that, on old business, the advisory board request for no-kill information.
That was your last meeting. That was the
Right.
meeting that we had prior.
And it's on the agenda, so did you have something to say about that?
Well, we're still working for those live outcome numbers, that we're still striving for that as best as we can. We all know that there are times that we have to euthanize. We're trying not to as best as we can, and I think our numbers are way low on dogs at this point. But the cat euthanasias and died in shelter are up because of the panleukopenia that is still going around. And we think that we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg last year with the illnesses, because we had so many come in just the last month that have tested positive for that those numbers are just, on the cat numbers, they're just not that great.
Was that no-kill information? They were just wanting to know, was that?
That was the information that you guys had requested, and that whole packet that we
Okay.
went through, that's
Yeah.
what that old business was.
Okay.
Okay. And I will say it unpopular, but I do think it's okay to be a kill shelter, because there's times when it's humane to kill an animal as
Right.
opposed to not. So I'm on the odd side of that. So Giardia and Kennel Cough, are we still having that in the shelter?
We're having a few, not as many as we were. I think we had a little batch of puppies that came in with it, and they had we've been kind of having, kind of an issue of getting it out of them. But they are quarantined where they can't be walked out in the yard, that kind of thing.
I read in the minutes that there was a new procedure of cleaning the vents. Is that really necessary?
It is.
They've decided that virus stays alive that long that it's in the vents?
Well, it's airborne, and when you're spraying in the kennels, you're spraying, and all those little particles go everywhere.
Right. My concern is that we're wasting effort if that virus dies, because a lot of times viruses don't last that long on a surface.
Well, we have to clean the ceilings and the vents because of the amount of dog hair too, as well, that collect on those, and we don't want to have the ceilings, because our ceilings are kind of like what we have here, and we want to make sure that they're clean and not holding smells or dog fur, dog hair, those kinds of things. So it's kind of
Really a
a thing that
procedure
we
that
have
you
to
already
do.
have done.
Yes.
It was just noted.
Yes.
Okay, because the only concern is I think back to COVID, when we took everything off of walls and we sprayed walls, and then we realized, oh, it really wasn't necessary. And we wouldn't want to put effort into that, because I read that in the minutes.
Yeah,
and
it is
just
by state
jumped out
standard
at me.
necessary for us because of the amount of stuff that goes on into the vents and on the ceilings, tops of the kennels as well. We have to make sure that those are clean and sanitized as well.
All right. And then how is the dog park progressing at Parker
There are
Park?
poles up, and
It's,
Jeff might wanna take
yeah,
that.
construction started. They have things on order that we're waiting for: the pavilions and the dog bowls and the lights. And they are working on the concrete. and the fencing right now.
It's going quite well, being someone with a 30-plus year construction background. They're doing good.
Good.
So
That's good to
And,
I
hear.
actually do
once-
business with the company that's actually doing the job.
Nice.
Once it opens, we can then proceed to close the public dog park behind the shelter and make that space available for Monique's animals.
Because as a side note or a question, because there's no place on this agenda for new business or, I guess from us, I don't know where that fits, but I would ask this, who looks, do you guys look at the dog parks up at Barkley Park? Or do you just change, I've seen personally, somebody coming to change the trash, and I didn't know if they also are responsible for just viewing and kind of doing a site check, or who does that? I was curious about that.
We are responsible for filling the poop bag stations and then also emptying that, the fecal poop bags. We don't empty the big public trash can, we just do that. If we see something that needs fixed, or somebody, if we're at the dog park and somebody's there and they're like, the gate is broken or the latch is broken or there's a hole over there, then we will then refer that over to parks.
Okay, so that all goes through parks, the actual maintenance of it. You just take care. Is that because, I'm just curious, that the fecal material has to be disposed of differently?
It's just, I think it's just part of what we want to do. I mean, it's easier for us, and then that way we can kind of see the park just to make sure that everything's cool and, you know, people are following the rules and things like that. We're not going to like ticket somebody in the park or anything like that. But it's nice. A lot of the people, when you go out there and empty the trash and stuff, they say hi and, you know, how are you? And their dogs come up and say hi to you. So it's kind of a nice little meet and greet type thing when you go out there.
No, it's a good idea.
Speaking of following the rules, how do we keep the large dogs from coming into the small dog
small.
pad? Because there are so many large dogs in one pad that somebody that's got a large dog but is a little bit more timid than the other big dogs, he thinks he can come into the small dog park, and then the small dogs get scared of that big dog that's coming in.
Right. We had a complaint about that a while back, and we did go out and talk to a certain person who was out there with a couple of dogs, like 2 bigger dogs, and then they had a smaller dog. We did ask them if they could go to the bigger dog park. So the people with smaller dogs, because there is a sign up there, you know,
Right.
that has, you know, small dog park and has a poundage on there for, you know, how can be in there. I know that a lot of times people are not using the small dog park, and the people with the large dogs are, okay, well, there's nobody in here, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. But we do ask them that if you are using it and somebody with small dogs comes up, can you please go to the next park so they can have their dog in there? Because it's you know, for their benefit, the little dog's benefit too, to be able to use that park.
If a patron does not feel comfortable confronting that person, they're more than welcome to call us, and our ACO will go out there and also then approach
Wow,
and have that conversation.
okay. Did you have any other general announcements?
No?
Yes, Mr. Hammond, if he does.
Mr. Hammond, do you have any other general announcements?
I do not.
You do not? Okay. Does anybody, I'm going to open it up. Does anybody have any other concerns at this time before we adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, not yet, because you did give us, and this isn't on the agenda, but you did give us this letter. Where did this letter go out to?
It went out to the public. It was with a part of our packet that you guys got. That also went out to the public.
Just through, it wasn't is it a newspaper thing?
No.
I don't know how, I guess I'm just trying to understand how we get something like this out to the public. Is it just on the website?
It's on, when I released everything to the public with the packets, that was part of being released with the packet.
So how far along are you about getting volunteers to get your program going?
So again, that's going to be on me and one of my projects, but with it coming up on summer and the aquatic season, I am worrying about the facility, my other facility right now, and then this fall is my game plan to get that volunteer program up and running.
We are working on the foster program. We do have people that have been applying for the foster program simply because we are starting to get a lot of the cats and kittens in. So we have been, having people reach out and get us the foster program. It's already been started, but we're just going to continue to add people as we go.
Okay.
Did we ever do a review on the volunteer group? What went wrong, how to fix it, what to do next time? Was there ever an internal review over that?
They're looking at me, so
Anybody, yeah.
I don't think there was a formal internal review.
Okay.
But we're always looking at ways to improve and change processes and to identify a future volunteer program.
Like, I know in business and in life and in personal stuff, if you don't know what went wrong, it's hard to correct and fix. I just want to throw that out there.
I will say the three of us, Jeff, Monique, and myself, met after you had given us that packet and talked a lot about everything in that packet on kind of just a general ideas for a future program. So we were taking some of that information to use to kind of think about what we want to do, how it would work, all of that.
Okay, with that, since it got brought up, got 3 different people in charge and that manage it from all very. What's your personal opinion on why the volunteer group dismembered? Start with you and then we'll work our way around.
I'm not sure. I'm not going to share personal opinions on it during the meeting. I'm going to pass.
Pass all the way around?
I don't have a personal opinion.
You don't have an opinion?
I don't have a personal opinion to share.
Professional opinion then?
I don't have anything to share.
Okay. Do you have one? I'm not trying to cause a problem. I just want to know that we're moving in the right direction.
I don't have an opinion, but what I could share, and I don't have it in front of me, is the letter that was provided by the Friends of the Animal Shelter. That's what I would speak to.
Okay, so you agree with that then?
Again, I don't have it in front of me. I can't speak verbatim as to what it said. But I would speak to that because that was what the information that was shared with us as to.
Okay, since you can't answer that question, between now and the fall, when you plan on trying to, make this program happen again, how detrimental is that going to be to the shelter and its functionality?
In terms of like the timeline, because it's from now to the fall?
Yeah.
We have staff, and just like we have been functioning since the Friends of the Animal Shelter disbanded, we have been able to function with the staff that we have at the shelter.
They hired extra staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hearing this, I would strongly encourage at some point there be a bullet point of what we think we screwed up, messed up on, didn't do correctly, so that as we go into the fall, we are able to not make those mistakes again. It's one thing to have a quick meeting, discussing what the packet was, but it's more proactive if you have bullet points. We want to make sure this doesn't happen, this doesn't happen. And then on the positive side, we want to make sure this does happen, this does happen. And I don't think that should just fall on your shoulders to make those determinations, because that's a lot. But instead to have that and maybe have informal brainstorming sessions, maybe with some previous volunteers, and trying to be more purposeful, not just on how we structure a program, because the way it sounded to me from the information that it had a lot to do with more of the emotional side, or the not the organizational, but how we are interacting with people. So I would recommend strongly that we somehow have some bullet points that, even that you would be willing to share and say, these are the things we've said we don't think we got to avoid, And these are the things we need to encourage, you know. And again, that would be good for transparency for the animal shelter, for the city of Salina, in the respect that if somebody had been a volunteer and really has passion and wants to come back, if they see that there's been a lot of very clear understanding of what we don't want to do, what we do want to do, then that will make them more inclined to come back and to speak positively of the animal shelter and the program. So that would be my recommendation.
Now listen to this, and I've evaluated all. I have nothing against anybody, but the positions that are involved, I don't think you guys, like, this has been going on for a while. It's kind of been a big upheaval with the city. To give me the answer that you did, that you don't have an opinion, we didn't evaluate it, we didn't go over it, we didn't do all that, I'm just disappointed. I think the ball's been dropped. I think the city can do a better job, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
And as you create this new program, I think you need to focus on your daily, weekly, and monthly operations and how these volunteers can give you the true support that you need. Not necessarily do your job for you, but make sure every key component of the daily operations is being met. Make sure the animal care is the primary focus of these people's time that they spend there.
Just a point of clarification, in the last meeting, there were 5 slides about volunteerism with bullet points on that presentation, if you want to refer back to that.
But I'm not talking about bullet points about how you want it. I go back and I agree with Scott. If we don't ever evaluate that which went wrong and clearly identify that, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we teach kids history. And so I think, you know, it's great to say yes, and obviously it wasn't satisfactory or didn't seem to meet my needs, or I wouldn't have said bullet points on what it is, what Scott asked, you know, what's the evaluation? How do we feel? Because the Friends of an Animal Shelter, they had their bullet points, they had their clear statements. I think we need clear statements back from the city. And in part, again, I just want to state, if you want to get people to volunteer again, and we don't have that transparency, there's been enough negativity from what I gather, because I'm new here, but it feels that way, that we have to create a positive situation. And the only way you do that is by addressing that which has happened clearly and then saying how we're going to make it better in the future.
The volunteers have their grievances, and there's been no response to that.
Exactly.
There's been no, it's just, yes, you volunteers have that, and that's it. There's been no, hey, we made a mistake, or hey, here's what we did right. You guys could have done this. There's just been none of that. So, yeah, go ahead.
I agree
I'm ready
with-
to put this thing to bed because it's been going on forever.
I agree with Scott on that. It's just like kicking the can down the road, and eventually you think it goes away, and it doesn't, because volunteers are very important in this community, and especially with the animal shelter, because you're giving up volunteers and you're costing city money to hire people that volunteers can do. And this has been a year probably now that we've talked about this, and it's time to quit kicking things down the road.
And this letter is a nice letter because it acknowledges that they were a vital group.
That was the
And that's-
motion that was put forward, and
yes.
they did. I appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank you
and
for
that's a
doing
nice
that.
letter, and I think that that's excellent. We just need to now, when we only meet every 3 months, it is easy to forget in that time span. And I would agree with Scott that it would be wise, I think, to somehow address some of the concerns that were presented, and then just, it's how you heal and then how you move forward. And again, because I think some of the volunteers would want to come back. And
There's no doubt.
And so if you want to have those volunteers who are so dedicated, we want to make sure it's transparent and say, yes, we messed up here. We're not going to do this. This is what we're going to put in place so it doesn't happen again. That's all. And if we can do that, then we can get that relationship back again. And I agree that the money is a definite reason to have volunteers, but let's be a bigger picture here. We have an art program in this town that is ridiculously incredible. We have arts and humanities that do fabulous things. Well, that's one aspect. We have a Parks and Rec. We have baseball and all these sporting events. This is another area that I will always advocate for, that we need people to be able to volunteer for animals. That this is an area for people, because I don't do sports. I don't have any interest in sports. And so this is my area. So it has more to do with even growing a community. And so I don't even care. I mean, I like the money, if we can save the city money, but I'd rather realize that it's even a bigger picture than that. So I don't know. I really honestly don't understand Robert's rules of law, and I'm going to have to study them. But I'm saying I strongly suggest, but I wish, I don't know if I say I motion, but I would like you guys to just consider addressing a few things, just straightforward, and then how are we going to not do it again? And then, maybe even contacting a few people that were volunteers and showing some kindness and some openness
As a board, we can give recommendations.
Okay.
And do those things.
And
If you
that's
put
about
your
it.
thoughts together, how you wanted that to lay out, you could do that.
And
And you could even, like, it's on the spot now.
Yeah.
You could do it at the next meeting. You could run it through your head, and we
Yeah.
could discuss it again, and you could get those out, and then we could pass a motion that we recommend that, and they don't have to do it.
right.
We're just an advisory board, but we can make those recommendations, and they did a good job on the last one we did.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll come back or something and have something, but it's,
If they don't have something, we can get it on
then
the
we
agenda, and then
we will need to
review
put
that
it on the
next time,
agenda.
yeah.
That is what I would say.
Because if we do it now, thoughts aren't,
Right.
you can fine tune it and get it to
Exactly.
narrow it down, yeah.
What specifically would you like us to address? What are specifically, what would you like us to address?
Well, the packet that Scott presented,
Okay.
I think it's pretty clear that you can go down the list of their concerns. And I don't think it would be a horrible thing to address each concern or the major ones and say, I agree, I disagree. From your standpoint, do you agree or disagree with this concern? Did you have, I don't want to call it culpability, but a shared partnership in that problem? And are we doing things to not have that happen again? Okay. So I think, because the packet was pretty clear about events and concerns.
There's no way in the world that either side did everything right. So we could all
Exactly.
find things that we could do to prevent that, and maybe move forward and build it back up again. Take that off your plate and have a volunteer group, run with it. They did an awesome job. They were big. They did, so just trying to help. I think that's one of the most important things in this advisory committee that I've seen the whole time, just because of money saved, hours saved, community, like you talked about, all that stuff.
And
I'd
be
love
aware.
to get this in the back, in the rearview
Exactly.
mirror.
It's not a attack or a negative. It's we would like it to be better. We'd like it to go, I want to say, back to the way it was, but it'd sure be nice if we had a very vital Friends of the Animal Shelter, community that was in place. And because nothing ever goes back. When you do have a difficulty, you never go back to the way it used to be. But I guess that's, in my view, that's
move
a way.
forward and be better, though.
You can move better,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And you can have healing. And I think if we don't address the concerns, that healing doesn't happen.
I know you guys are sick of it.
I just want to say thank you for the feedback. We do appreciate it.
yeah.
I just also
That's-
wanted to
it's
say
helpful.
that this volunteer program is not just for the shelter. What we're doing is going to be parks wide.
Wow.
And then this will just be a portion of it. So keep
See, and
that in
that's-
mind as well.
And not to be.
That's a big project.
Not to be scary, but that scares me because that will make it even harder to, that is a task. And it will be harder to make sure that we maintain oversight, that it'll be easy for it to get filtered out and just have a handful here and a handful there. So I would prefer to have it be a separate organization just because it is able to then really focus on that need. But I also understand why you have to put an umbrella because you've got this group, this group, this group, this group. So, okay, that's good to know. So does that make sense? Okay. I appreciate you guys listening because I'm late to the party and mostly am making observations from what I have read and seen. I know nothing except for what I've seen. Okay, is there anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Please?
I second it.
Okay, looks like our meeting is adjourned then. Oh, do we have to do all in favor for a motion to adjourn? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nay. Okay, good. Thank you all.